Hello everybody, this is Kai Marn, and today gonna be going over the worst Kingdom Come 2 Deliverance defense I've ever heard. Honestly, it's pretty ridiculous. This guy is saying that this game isn't woke even though this game is, unequivocally woke. And I only just noticed this, but this thumbnail, he used apparently Thumbnail Maker to make this, and it still looks this bad. My god. But anyway, enough gab, let's just get into it.
Hey guys, how's it going? Um, this is gonna be the last KCD2 drama video, and this is gonna be my final stance on this whole situation about KCD2. Because no matter what I say about the game, no matter how much I scream from the rooftops about, how this isn't a big fucking deal, people.
First thing, this guy talks like a fucking libtard. Like, he's talking like Destiny talks like this same way, I swear. I'm not too knowledgeable on Destiny, but he's always like... They always say stuff like this. This is like Reddit tier.
Are treating this as if this is another Dragon Age the Veilguard situation, when it's not. To give a quick rundown of what...
Although, he's gonna give a... Let's hear.
on KCD2, if you haven't watched the previous video. It is in hot water for having a optional gay romance for Henry. It's
That is one thing it's in hot water for.
already been confirmed by Grums, who's talked to players beat the game.
It's been confirmed by the director, too.
The players already confirmed the game's not woke. There's no agenda pushing in the game. They already explained the person of color in the game as being a traveling medic for Sigmund's army. So that's already been debunked.
Okay, so... He basically spends this entire video talking about the gay romance, and he only mentions Musa of Mali. At the very start, in this one throwaway line, he doesn't explain how it's not woke at all to put some magic Negro, some progressive black man in 15th century Bohemia, when in the past, the director said this: "Would you please explain to me what's racist about telling the truth? There were no black people in medieval Bohemia, period." Said that in 2015, and Kingdom Come was a game that prided itself on its historical accuracy, tried to be as historically accurate as possible, and now we're just putting in random black guys for what? DEI points, presumably. And he's like, oh, it doesn't matter because they explained it. It's a dumb explanation. And look, you could say it's historically plausible, but a lot of things are historically plausible. Doesn't mean they're historical. At this point, might as well make a historical, might as well just make a alternate history game at this point. And here, I even have the screenshots here. You're telling me this kind of dialogue isn't woke? Musa of Mali is my name. Scholar, explorer, physician, I run the camp infirmary. Similar to your country, yet completely different. You mine silver, we gold, but in our country it would never happen that we allow foreigners into our mines. Overall, it is safer in our country. Nobody will waylay you on your journey, and we treat women with greater respect and set great store by learning. Alright, so they put a random black guy into the game, even though it's supposed to be historically accurate and there were no black people in medieval Bohemia. And in addition to that, they make this guy like some progressive, enlightened, a progressive, enlightened magic Negro, basically. He's got to educate the savage white man. And, it's also completely historically inaccurate. Mali at the time was a shithole. It was basically a slave state that treated women like cattle. And, of course, much less educated than, Europe, of course. So, look, this entire guy is like a leftist fantasy, and he just, like, brushes it off like, oh, the director totally just explained it. Yeah, definitely not woke. Okay, buddy.
It makes sense why he's there. And of course, the optional gay romance, and the players confirm that you have to go out of your way to find it. It's really difficult to even do. The cutscene involving with it is not even explicit, and it is optional, which was my main point of my last video. People are claiming that Warhorse is retconning Henry to be gay/bi, when that is not the case.
I mean, it is the case, though. I mean, if he can be gay now, I mean, that basically makes him bisexual. He's confirmed straight in the original game. He could only have, relations with women. He had a confirmed relationship with that Bianca girl, too, in the intro. So this is literal retcon. This is the whole thing. I don't understand what this guy's trying to say. Making a straight character gay and shoehorning in a random black guy that somehow doesn't make it woke.
and I already talked about this in my last video, but I'll talk about it again. But this video is going to be a little bit more in-depth of what I'm trying to say, and maybe this video will get the point across a little bit better, and hopefully we'll get across some thick skulls who are claiming that this game has been infected and Warhorse is infected and this game is going to be the next Dragon Age the Veilguard kind of shit. Hopefully,
this game might not be Dragon Age the Veilguard, but I guarantee you Kingdom Come 3 is going to be a hell of a lot closer.
This video can at least put some sense into them. So in my comments, I received mixed reactions. There are some people who were saying this is not a big deal, people are overblowing this, which is true. This whole situation is not even a big deal.
Yeah, definitely not a big deal.
But then you got people who are saying I'm wrong.
Which you are.
I'm factually wrong for defending KCD2, that's saying Henry having a gay romance option is apparently a bad thing. And that I'm wrong about that, and this is agenda pushing, this is woke, this is DEI field, whatever the fuck, whatever they call it, right? The two main points they've been using against me, and this is the first part of this video, by the way, it's going to be me debunking some points, and I want to bring in 2 games, one for each point.
When I first watched this, I knew the first game he was going to bring up, and spoilers, Mass Effect 2, but let's just listen to him talk.
Right? For one, one of the main ones I saw was that you couldn't do it in the first game, so why is it in the sequel? Well, to answer that, I can use another very popular RPG franchise to debunk this. Because these 2 games are really huge games and are loved by the community. And they didn't receive this amount of backlash. But this game apparently deserves it, but these games, when they came out, didn't. The game I'm referencing that did the same thing was the very popular sci-fi RPG Mass Effect. If you didn't know the very first Mass Effect, you could not romance the same sex. You could only romance the opposite sex. It wasn't until Mass Effect 2, the sequel, where you could romance the same sex. Now, is that woke?
Yes, actually it is it is woke. I want him to finish the point before I completely debunk it, though.
Because when that game came out, no one was screaming woke. People were just praising the game for being a good video game. No one cared that there was a same-sex romance option. In fact, no one even talked about it. It was just talked about as being a very good RPG and a very good video game. Which is what the gaming discussion should be. It's not...
Well, okay, I guess he's done now. So first of all, people actually did talk about it. Look, for one thing, when the hell did Mass Effect 2 come out again? 2010? He's like, nobody was crying woke in 2010. You mean before the term woke even existed? Well, the term woke exists. Look, this guy's older than I am, yet somehow I have to give the history lesson. Okay, so in case you guys don't know, the origins of the term woke are actually older than you'd think, but basically liberals would use the term in like 2014, 2015, 2016 to basically refer to somebody who was very, who was very leftist, very based. It was, liberals used it as like the right-wing version of based in like 2014, 2015, 2016. And as you can see here, can we talk about how woke Matt McGorry was in 2015? Some feminist article talked about how woke this guy is. Although in their case, it's a good thing. And then it wasn't until you get to like 2017 when right-wing people start to appropriate the term to use it to make fun of leftists. As you can see, this is from a Shoe on Head video from 2017, World's Wokest Male Feminist. So really, this game came out even before the original Gamergate, which was like 2014, 2015. The term woke was like 7 years away from people using it to make fun of people. This is before the anti-woke movement even existed. This guy's basically like, like, this is absolutely insane. And even then, people did complain about it. Like, look, people didn't complain about it as much. But, I mean, look, here, I have a vintage meme of people making fun of the gay romance right here. People weren't exactly big fans of this. And, they let it go because the culture is different. This was before, well, leftists completely destroyed everything, right? So people were a little more tolerant. What's happened since Mass Effect 2 is that we've gotten Dragon Age the Veilguard. The slippery slope is 100% real. And ultimately, it started here. It started in, just it's a benign optional romance. Oh, no. But anyway, though.
Talking about your personal fucking politics and getting butthurt about it. It should be about if the video game is good or not.
So this is also an interesting point that he kind of brings out. He says that the politics of a game don't matter. What matters is whether or not the game is good or not. Let's see if he
I
says
have made it clear several times on this channel. Well, I've made it clear.
whatever. But look, the thing is that I don't really think this is what he means. I think he's just explaining himself badly. But if the politics of a game don't matter at all, then hypothetically, let's say that like the maps make a game, the minor attracted people make a game, and the game is like, it's like, let's say it's like a Doom shooter or a Quake shooter or whatever, a Quake clone, one of the best Quake clones ever. It's an excellent shooter, but the plot is that it's like an adult child love story and all the enemies are like pedophobes. Let's say that's the game. Oh, but the game is so good. Why would you complain about the politics? Get what I'm saying? But let's continue.
Rephrase, I talked about in the last video that I am for inclusivity and diversity and representation, but
He's for inclusivity, diversity, representation, aka he's a liberal. I don't have the meme on me, but a lot of these people crying, "Oh, the anti-woke has gone too far," are actually just liberals. Case in point, this guy.
when it's forced, like in Dragon Age the Veilguard, when they force modern politics into a fantasy like RPG, is where I have an issue. But things like that, like an option to have a same-sex like romance in an RPG, doesn't fucking bother me. But that's just one point. But see, every time I brought it up in the comments, they didn't want to comment on it.
People do comment. People did comment on it. I'm commenting on it right now. Henry was a pre-established character with a backstory. He wasn't a self-insert. He was much more like Geralt from The Witcher, rather than like the courier from New Vegas, let's say. He was a pre-established character with a personality, a backstory, everything. And look, you can influence him in a lot of ways, but he was never really supposed to be a self-insert, and he was already pre-established as straight. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, this is from the original. Will we have some kind of same-sex romance or even any kind of romance? Same-sex romance, no, you will play as Henry, the son of a blacksmith from Silver Scalus, and he already does have a background story in which he is not bi or homosexual, but there will be homosexual NPC characters in the game. So those players who are not straight will be forced to romance a woman. Nobody will force you to do anything, but you will play as Henry, the son of a blacksmith, and yes, he is straight and white and male and from Bohemia. Someone from France will not be able to play a French guy even if he loves his country. If you are in a wheelchair, you will be able to walk in the game. And Henry will be able to have a dog in the game even if you are more of a kind of cat person. You'll play as a Christian person even if you are a Muslim, Hindu, atheist, or Jedi. What if you're an artist and drawing is your life and you will now play as characters unable to hold a brush or pen at all? Or if you're tall or small or big or skinny. Nothing wrong about people have different preferences and heritage, but we cannot cover them all, and we do not want to. We want to tell the story of Henry, the son of a blacksmith from Silver Scalus, and he will be different from you, not only in his sexuality, but in his heritage, in his looks, and in his biography, and many more. He will maybe will be able to do things that you are not able to do in real life, while he lacks in other tasks in which you are great. This game is not meant to be about you. You are not Henry. You are Jan Silva, and you will be able to play as Henry if you want to. You can play his role. There are so many facets that creates a character, a person, an individual. Being gay or straight, not the only difference between people. People are people. So basically, this is from the official Warhorse channel. You can say that this is just like some random HR guy, but it shows how the design philosophy around the first game and around Henry wasn't for it to be... He was never supposed to be a self-insert. He's a pre-established character he would influence. And he had a pre-established backstory of all this stuff, of being straight, of being a man, and now they're changing it, and they're like, oh, it's because he's a self-insert now. That's not how it was. You've completely changed him.
They didn't want to say anything about that because they know it's true.
You don't want to say anything about, what the hell was his game? Musa? What was this guy's name again? Musa? Yeah, Musa. because you know you're wrong about that. I'll bring this up actually. The reason he doesn't talk about Musa, I guess you could call this sort of like a Mott and Bailey argument. Basically, the Bailey in a Mott and Bailey argument, the Bailey is what you really care about, and then the Mott is something that's easier to defend. So instead of defending Musa, which is pretty hard to defend, Musa being in the game, because if you really dive into it, it's like it's completely ridiculous. But the gay romance is a lot easier to defend. So he focuses on that instead. You get what I'm saying? So he effectively indirectly defends the idea that Kingdom Come Deliverance isn't woke by just ignoring the part, effectively ignoring the evidence that says that it is.
That game received massive critical acclaim. That it's some people's favorite Mass Effect game, and it introduced same-sex romance.
Look, also critical acclaim doesn't really matter. Although, look, people did like it, but like I said, completely different socio-political era. You know, this was before feminists and leftists completely took over the industry. People were more tolerant, and since then, people have learned that the slippery slope is real, and that a tiny bit of leftism will eventually grow and fester until it takes over the entire company. You know, if we say hypothetically BioWare was being run by like based right-wing people and Mass Effect 2 didn't have gay romance and they kept on that path, then we wouldn't have gotten a game as bad as Veilguard. That's for sure.
That's just one of the points. Here's the second to last point, right? People saying that Henry was already an established character. They turned him gay and / bi. He's already established character. He's established to be straight. Let me rephrase this. As someone who's played Kingdom Come Deliverance, one who's played a ton of it, who backed the game on Kickstarter when the Kickstarter dropped.
Yeah, so this guy was always a pay piggy.
Who's been playing the game since launch and loves this game, and it's in my top 5 RPGs of all time. Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 is a true to form RPG. Your character Henry, while has a slight backstory, the main thing you know at the start of the game is you're playing as Henry, you're the son of the blacksmith, and you're in a small village. That is it. He does have a girlfriend, but that is pretty much all you know. All right, they don't go deep into his backstory until you find out who his real father is and stuff. They don't go like that's later on in the game, but the whole point of that is, yeah, you're playing as an established character. However, you can forge his personality and forge how people view him based by your decisions and your actions along the way. I'm pretty sure if people played as a serial killer in KCD 1...
Look, I mean, this argument is just wrong. I mean, look, he's basically just downplaying how the game treats Henry as a character, and you could be like, oh, but what about gameplay? Look, by this logic, you could say that like Solid Snake is the worst stealth agent ever because I suck at Metal Gear, you know? Like, you know, Henry is definitely just not supposed to be a self-insert in any kind of way. And look, you can influence him in a lot of ways, but that's all you can do, influence. You know, you don't get total choice. You don't get complete free choice. You know, a lot of story things, Henry will just decide for you. Look, you influence him, you really don't control him. He's much more like Geralt than, you know, any other, you know, self-insert RPG character.
He's not going to be a fucking serial killer in KCD 2. I'm just saying, it's an RPG. It is a RPG. But there was another RPG that did the same thing. But again, no one talked about it. In fact, this studio is known for having these kind of options in their RPG, but this one was in a very similar situation as KCD2, but no one talked about it. I am, of course, talking about Fallout 4.
See, now, this guy... Look, Mr. Celtic Reviews, it's not my fault that your mother drank while she was pregnant with you, okay? But anyway, please enlighten us on this Fallout 4 situation.
Now, you play as a somewhat established character. You have somewhat of an established backstory, kind of like Henry, where you play as the son of a blacksmith and you live in a small village. In Fallout 4, depending on what gender you chose, you played as either a lawyer or a war veteran. You play, and these two people are married. And keep in mind, both of them are male and female when you start the game. Is a male and female option. You also have a kid in the game. So technically, this game should be woke, right? Because
this is such a stupid argument. Look, first of all, Fallout 4 is woke, like straight up, and it also came out in, let's see here, 2015. So basically during the first Gamergate. This is before leftism completely took over the gaming industry, so people were more tolerant of this kind of stuff. And also, this doesn't even jive, because you place it, like, Fallout 4 basically has a self-insert. I mean, they have a voice in the game. But this is a character without a pre-established backstory, really. He's like, oh, but in the game, they were like they had a family. And that really doesn't matter that much in this context. Look, in Pokemon, every Pokemon game has a self-insert protagonist, basically. And guess what? They all have a mom, too. That doesn't mean they have an established backstory. But, like, my god. Like, Henry literally had an entire game. Like, look, Henry actually is just a completely different case. Alright, than the rando self-insert you play as in Fallout 4.
Because after you leave the vault and you start getting companions, you can romance the same-sex companions in Fallout 4. But he was married to a woman and had a kid. Wouldn't that be woke to you guys? But
it literally is woke, by the way. But like I said, look, for one thing, it's not a retcon in the first place. So it's not really as bad in that department. And also 2015, people were more tolerant because leftism hadn't completely taken over the industry. People have learned since then that if you give them an inch, they take a mile. Accepting Mass Effect 2 led us to Dragon Age the Veilguard. Accepting Fallout 4 led us to Starfield.
No one said a thing about Fallout 4.
Also, before the anti-woke movement barely existed, this was during the Gamergate era. This is when literally basically the first pushback against feminism even happened. This was like the era of, like, you know, the first Trump campaign and get wrecked feminist compilations.
Because they were talking about the game, not fucking politics.
What if you put politics in your game? You kind of have to talk about them, or you do things in the game for political reasons.
A difference. Those are the 2 points that were constantly being brought up, but you know what's crazy about these 3 games? They are all RPGs. RPGs focus on player choice. They offer the player a lot of options and choices to mold the character how you want it to be molded into. People keep bringing up The Witcher 3, and I get it. However, the difference between Henry and Geralt is that Geralt was already based off a ton of books that had already pre-established lore about the character that CD Projekt Red had to get approval from the author to make somewhat changes.
You know, I don't necessarily think that's true. If you guys don't know the whole lore about the Witcher IP, is that CDPR bought the Witcher license from the author for like a lump sum. They didn't even have to pay him royalties because the Witcher author thought that the games were going to be stupid or whatever. Of course they blew up. I don't think we ever figured out exactly what the details of the agreement were. You know, but presumably they could have changed a lot of things. I mean, normally that's how it goes when you get a license. I mean, look at Rings of Power, right?
Do you think the author was going to let Geralt have a same-sex romance option when in the books he was always with women? No.
And then he says, look, by this logic, what if the author did give CD Projekt Red permission to make Geralt bisexual? Would it be fine then? Okay, would it be okay?
We're not going to do that. With Henry, his backstory isn't in books. Okay?
It's in the game.
His Warhorse's creation. They're not changing it for the sake of changing it. They're not changing it for the sake of woke or DEI. They're just giving players more options for their Henry. For more options for you to mold and shape Henry however you want him to be.
Look, This is stupid because, look, the gay. I might make a whole video, but I completely disagree with the notion of like gay romance for choice anyway, because it's effect only like 1% of players give a care. Like 1% of men are gay. No one really wants a gay romance option. It's not very popular. Honestly, there's probably more chubby chasers than look. There's more chubby chasers than homosexuals. Yet we never get any. Well, actually, we kind of get BBWs now, but you get what I mean, right? But yeah, anyway, so we gotta burn valuable dev resources so we can, please 1% of the population and get brownie points from, lefty game journos. And, this guy too, apparently.
That should be a good thing. That is more options for us as the player.
Yeah, it would have been good in The Witcher 3 if they made Geralt bisexual. It gives us more options to form Geralt how we want. It gives us more options to do it whatever we want, right? And his argument is that it wouldn't have been okay for just because the author would have been against it. If the author gave them permission, or if they didn't even need the author's permission in the first place, then, why would it be a bad thing if they did it in The Witcher, huh?
To experiment with and have fun with and get different sides of Henry. They're not objectively making Henry gay slash bi, and this is the second point. Me setting some fact, like me stating the facts, and this is facts, what I'm saying. They are not making Henry gay, straight, or bi, whatever the fuck. What happens to Henry in KCD2 is entirely up to the player and the choices that you make. Do you want to make...
So, I mean, sort of, I guess, in a roundabout way says that being gay is a choice, which kind of based, not gonna lie. Although, of course, being gay isn't a choice. It's a choice that somebody else makes for you, but that's another discussion.
Henry gay? Go have sex with the same sex. Do you want to make Henry bi? Bang both. Do you want to make Henry straight? Bang all the women that you see as you're exploring. That is your choice. It is a choice. It is optional. For them to factually make Henry gay slash bi, like factually make it like canonically and retconning him, they would have had immediately remove the fact that he had a girlfriend and just be like, hey, by the way, he only bangs dudes now. You can't romance any women in the game. He can only bang dudes. That would be making Henry gay. They're not doing that.
I think he's just taking the term gay too literally. Like, when people say gay, they also can refer to people who are bisexual, by the way, which Henry basically is now, if he even has the choice at all.
They're literally just giving a player the choice to make their Henry however they want to make him.
And, choices aren't even necessarily good. I mean, look, here's something, people talk about historical accuracy. Want to know what would be historically accurate in the time period? Romance with a minor. All right. Age of adulthood in the Middle Ages was like, I don't know, wasn't it like 14? I don't remember exactly. And nobility married even younger, by the way. But, that's one romance we'd never get in a Kingdom Come game. And that's one romance where if it was in the game, there would be complete meltdown. This guy sure as hell probably wouldn't be defending that.
Which is fine. That's not a bad thing. And that should never be a bad thing. In an RPG. This is a role-playing game where the player's choices are the most important thing. Choice and consequence. These people that are spewing...
Also, if the consequence for doing the gay route isn't getting stoned to death, then it's like 1,000 times woke.
Oh, the studio's been affected, the studio's woke, this game's woke, have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. They are a part of a hive mind community that want to focus on politics and gaming instead of the video game itself.
Because the whole industry is about politics now. That's what happened.
At any point when you argue with these people, they don't bring up the gameplay or the game because they know it looks good. Instead, they'll bring up politics.
Yeah, I go back to my earlier point. If pedophiles made a pro-pedophile game that had amazing gameplay, would you ignore the politics? Hell, if this game had, like I said, a minor romance, would you be ignoring that? Get fucking real here.
When in fact, that never used to be the case. Look at Mass Effect 2, look at Fallout 4, as I said.
Yeah, like I said, this was before there was anti-woke pushback, because this was before it completely took over the game industry and people realized how dangerous it was.
They did the same thing that KCD2 is doing, and no one batted an eye and no one said a word because people focus on how good the video game is.
And also Fallout 4 sucked either way, so...
saying that this is another Dragon Age the Veilguard situation has no idea what the fuck they are talking about. Dragon Age the Veilguard failed because it forced modern politics into a fantasy RPG where they made one of the characters non-binary and had gender politics in it. Not once in any of the previews or anything like that had they mentioned them making any character trans or non-binary or pushing a woman boss agenda. It is a grounded in reality medieval Bohemia RPG, and yes, they do have an option to have a same-sex relationship
and a random black guy,
but it's already been confirmed that this will have consequences. They've already confirmed that Henry and this other person will try to keep it a secret, as is taboo during this time. It was a forbidden sin and these people knew it. If you do any amount of research, you will know there was gay people in medieval Bohemia.
Yeah, and they got rightfully stoned for it. Okay, maybe that's a little edgy, but...
So this is still historically accurate.
And look, no one's saying that there weren't gay people that existed, but it's stupid to make Henry gay. And it's kind of dumb to even include... Look, nobody, except for, like, actual cuckolds like this guy, wants there to be a fucking gay romance in a historically accurate medieval RPG. Like, let's be real here. No actual straight male gamer wants gay romance in a game. You know, I got this here. Straight men's physiological stress response to seeing two men kissing is the same as seeing maggots. Straight men are naturally disgusted by homosexuality. It's only because of, like, insane, like, billions of dollars spent in psyops to have been spent trying to make straight men tolerate this behavior. But men are naturally disgusted by it. No one wants this in games, okay? But they put up with it, right? Because they're convinced by all the propaganda, and now people are pushing back. Like, this just shouldn't be in the game at all.
And people are now hanging on the fact that the game director said this is not a Christian game. Are we really...
Now this is, get ready for this dumb argument.
Using this argument now? KCD1 was not a Christian game. For it to be a Christian game, it wouldn't be as violent or as vulgar as it was. The only reason why people...
Okay, so... He's saying that Kingdom Come can't be a Christian game because it's too violent. Well, there's this obscure piece of Christian literature, you know, not well known, but very beloved. Okay, it has lots of violence, and there's lots of violence and murder and death and genocide and rape and incest. All right, it's a bit edgy. All right, it's called the Holy Bible. All right, just because a game has, you know, violence or whatever, and it doesn't necessarily mean it isn't Christian. It depends on how it's portrayed, what the themes are. And look, I'm not going to do an entire breakdown on Kingdom Come's themes, but this isn't a valid argument for why it isn't Christian. I mean, look, even the title, Kingdom Come, a phrase in the Lord's Prayer in the Bible, literally the name comes from a Christian prayer.
It wouldn't be as violent or as vulgar as it was.
Yeah, wrong.
The only reason why people think that is because the game is set in medieval Bohemia, where it was very much a Christian territory. There are themes of Christianity all throughout the game, sure, but it's not a Christian video game. Do you think it's very Christian for Henry to go out drinking and have an all-night bender with a priest?
Look, not necessarily. But look, it depends on how it's portrayed in the game. All right? It's not unchristian to show people sinning. People sin all the time. What matters is what the ultimate message is supposed to be. And like I said, I'm not going to examine the entire themes, but this just saying, he's not a good Christian boy, that just means this game isn't Christian. That doesn't jive.
Do you think it's very much Christian for Henry to bang Teresa before marriage? No. It is not a Christian video game. And for people to now use that as ammunition just shows these people have nothing else better to do other than to sit there and find something to scream woke about, to scream censorship about.
Yeah, now we're getting back to like, the anti-woke or the new woke, the right woke or whatever. Give me a break, man.
It is ridiculous how the gaming community has turned into this toxic cesspit of politics and finding, and this doesn't just go for the anti-woke, this also goes for the woke. This goes for the woke crowd. As I've said, I'm perfectly balanced on this. I do support representation and diversity in video games, sure,
Yeah, like actual liberal over here.
but I also support it only when it fits the game.
And it just definitely doesn't fit Kingdom Come 2. No reason for there to be some progressive black guy. Or make a straight character gay.
Something like Dragon Age: The Veilguard is pushing that to its limits, and it failed for that reason. And is
Honestly, this is a bit off topic, but one of the issues with Veilguard, it's awesome how the game failed, but the game was almost too woke because now it's sort of like, it's like a left-wing caricature. So now guys like this are like, if a game isn't as woke as Veilguard, it's not woke.
it's a lesson to show that you shouldn't overdo something like that. It should fit the game. It should fit the narrative. And
so basically, according to this guy, if all like the trans stuff and the non-binary crap all fit the game's universe, it all would have been fine.
Shouldn't be pushing it that hard down our throats. KCD2 is not a woke video game. It is not
Well, I think something else is getting pushed down this guy's throat, but
DEI field. Just because the owner of Warhorse is DEI, whatever the fuck they want to call it, does not mean they're forcing Warhorse to put anything DEI into the game. The game
that's highly debatable.
directors already came out and said that he was not forced into doing anything. This was the game that he wanted to make.
Honestly, that makes it even worse. I won't get too deep into it, but for one thing, the game director can't just be like, the Embracer group totally forced me to do all this total bullshit. Because, look, as a director, you can't talk shit about your publisher. You just can't do it. It's like how Hideo Kojima said that Metal Gear Solid 5 was his vision. He was satisfied with the game, even though the game was obviously unfinished. I mean, look, I do not think Kojima was satisfied with MGS5 the way it released. Konami basically forced it out the door, but you can't talk shit about your publisher. In the industry, you just can't do that, so it's kind of a moot point.
Which means he's the one who wanted to include this extra player option for you to do.
Yeah, that makes it even worse. That means Vavra was just faking it the whole time. He was just a leftist loony who was grifting.
To the people screaming that they forced Henry to be gay/bi is simply stupid. They have no idea what they are talking about. For that to happen, as I said, they would have to literally sit there and tell you that for Henry to be straight up gay, they would have to tell you, like, you can't bang females anymore. Henry now loves dick.
For Henry to be straight up straight, he wouldn't have the option to bang guys.
No explanation. He just loves dick. We don't know what the quest involves with the same-sex relations. We don't know how Henry's reacting to it. We're just going off assumptions.
He meets a priest, and he remembers the time when he was 4 when he got diddled by his uncle. You're a latent homosexual, Henry.
Which is a very dangerous game to play. To the people boycotting KCD2, go ahead, scream as loud as you want. You're boycotting a game that's potentially going to be an excellent video game.
Don't ask questions, just consume product and get excited for next product.
Because of your blindness to your own politics. And
it's called having moral standards. I know you wouldn't understand.
It's a fucking sad state when we can't even look at video games as video games anymore. KCD2 is shaping up to be one of the best RPGs. From everyone who's played it, they've said how great the game is. Grums did an amazing...
Look, first of all, it's basically only been shills who have played the game, by the way. And also, one thing that's interesting, leftists attacked the original Kingdom Come. They haven't really been attacking this new one. A little suspicious if you think about it.
Amazing article, if you look it up, where even the player who played it said, this game's not woke. They're not pushing any agenda. However, that's not good enough for these people. They don't want any gay stuff, and they don't want a gay person in their game. They don't want
exactly
a person of color in their game. They don't want...
Yeah, at least no people of color in medieval Bohemia, that's for sure. Now, I would be fine with, if we had a game in the Kingdom of Mali and it was realistic, that could be fun. Although, you know, with stuff like this, we'd never get something realistic because it's always going to be like Wakanda Light, because if you actually showed it realistic, it wouldn't exactly be too positive, let's say.
Want a woman in her game.
Okay, now he's going to attack the incels, but...
Gay stuff, and they don't want a gay person in their game. They don't want a person of color in their game. They don't want a woman in their game. Let me rephrase. They don't want an ugly woman in their game. They want a hot woman to look at while they beat their fucking meat.
So basically, this guy is literally like a feminist. Oh, if you don't like all the uglification of women, if you don't like all these wildebeest, Lizzo, Gorlock the Destroyers, you're just a fucking gooner who's cranking it, playing the game one-handed. Yeah, okay, bud.
It is ridiculous to sit here and say KCD2 is woke, because it's not. It is just a RPG. At the end of the day, it's just an RPG. This is the last video I'm making on this subject matter. I have no intention to talk about this drama anymore. I am going back to talking about to Path of Exile 2, and I'm going to be reviewing KCD2 when I officially beat it. I'm going to put out first impressions after I put in at least 15 to 20 hours to the game. Anyways, guys, hope you guys have a great day. Sorry about this long-winded rant video, but this video needed to be made. I hope you guys have a fantastic day.
Well, whatever, I guess that's it. Anyway, though, so... Man, this video was long, 40 minutes. So anyway, in short, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is not woke despite making a straight character gay, and despite putting a progressive black guy in medieval Bohemia, even when the director himself admitted that there were no black people in medieval Bohemia, and despite that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is supposed to be as historically accurate as possible. Alright, it's not woke despite all that. According to this guy, who, by the way, thinks you're an incel chud coomer piece of shit if you don't want game characters to be completely ugly and unbearable to look at. Anyway, though, but that's about it for me. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Comment down below your thoughts. And thank you all for watching. Goodbye.